Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Pardon me while I take a little bit of time to pack my pipe here. That's what I normally do. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I have a very special guest today. His name is Eric. I have been excited about him hopping on for a long time. He has an amazing page, and he is very charismatic and fun to talk to. I see he's just kind of logged on, waiting for him to join, and we will get rolling as soon as he wants to kind of join in here. So today, I hope everybody's having a great day. I am excited about today because this week I have a lot of exciting things going on, but I'm going to talk to Eric instead, tell you about all of my things. So he will be popping on.
Oh my God. Oh, I
Hey.
almost wish I didn't join when I did because you were giving me compliments, and I have a very big ego.
Well, I mean, I can still do that with you on here. So
Let me just lay back. I'm not going to
yeah,
talk.
okay. I'll just go ahead and let me build you up a little bit here. How are you doing, my friend?
Happy Pride, my friend.
Yes, happy Pride. Are you doing well today? I hope.
I got to tell you, I am an emotional mess.
Emotion. What happened? Is it good emotions or bad emotions?
Amazing emotions.
Oh, good.
All emotions are amazing, but comfortable emotions. Let's say that.
Okay.
I'm working on a sermon which I can talk to you about. It's about my life coming out. Also, just marched in the Los Angeles Pride Parade with some
I
people.
saw that.
And I feel like I'm just so grateful. I'm just grateful to live in a world where I can be myself. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity. I mean, Brad, I have moments and memories from yesterday of, I'll give you a couple examples. There was a couple of people yesterday. I just sensed that they just needed connection, right? One kid, he was maybe 17 or 18. As soon as I saw him, I kind of walked across the street during the parade route and I talked to him a little bit. He said he just came out. I could tell that he just needed to be seen. I talked to his mom after, and she said, he just came out and he doesn't have a lot of friends yet. So to connect with someone else meant a lot. And I think, and this is not me patting myself on the back, this is me saying that I'm healing my inner child trauma by loving others in a way that I wish I was seen and loved at the time. And it's just such a beautiful process for me right now.
Well, I've got to tell you, my friend, I'm excited as well because I am going to my first Pride March at the end of this month.
Hey, amazing. It's going to be so fun.
My wife has been there. She's one of the ladies that gives out free hugs uh,
Oh,
and everything. So that's exciting. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we have them all over Maryland. So we may do to a couple of them. I love it. I'm loving the love. Am I allowed to say that? Am I
you
kidding?
are. All I'll say is wear a mask because homosexuality is airborne, so you might catch
Oh,
it. Or, you know.
uh, you know what? I don't care. It's all good. If that's the way I'm going, that's the way I'm going. I'm all for it.
That, my friends, is a man who is secure in his sexuality. That's what that looks like. What a concept.
Oh man. Well, I am glad that you're feeling all the good emotions and everything. Would you do me a quick favor though? For all the people that are on my page that are going to watch this, see this, that don't know who you are, I'd love if you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit to them.
I would love to. I love talking about myself. My name is Eric Feltis. I am a life coach that helps other gay men free themselves from church shame. I'm also an actor. I live in Los Angeles with my dog and my 20 houseplants.
Do you have a favorite plant?
Uh, I said that as if I have so many stories.
You did. You sounded like that was a very important fact about yourself.
Oh, Brad, let me tell you. No, it's something that I got into mostly over COVID because I was lonely, and now I love, I love living. I do love living alone, but I love having life around me. I don't have a specific. They're all my favorite.
Oh, in case they're hearing this.
In case, I'm just kidding.
I love it. I love it. Uh, so tell me a little something, okay? You had mentioned about helping this other person out,
Yeah.
who had just come out. what's a little bit about your background? I mean, like, are you, did you grow up in a highly religious family? Did you, I mean, what was that like for you?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up Catholic through eighth grade, and then I started going to an evangelical church in high school. I like adding the fact that I went to the evangelical church voluntarily. I wanted. People always wonder why, and the church I went to is filled with many beautiful, loving, wonderful people. I know I knock on that church a lot, but some really good people I met from that space. And I think what I needed, Brad, was I needed connection, and I wanted to be seen. And I really enjoyed the youth, and I enjoyed talking to people about God in a way that was exciting and not a way that was mandatory. You
Mm.
know, going to a private school where we went to church, every Wednesday or Friday and together as a family on Sunday, which is inundated with Catholicism. I'm not saying there's anything good or bad about that, but it was something that I sort of took for granted, and it just was rote prayer, and it was just sort of stale for me. So
Right.
have an experience where people were living, at the time I believed, living the true gospel was I felt really needed for me, and I really appreciated and wanted that community.
Mm.
Now, I came out of the closet when I was 25. I was engaged to a woman at the time. 6 months before the wedding, the save the dates were out. If there are any producers watching this would make a fantastic movie. I will play my older self. Thank you very much. And yeah, 6 months before the wedding, save the dates were out. I met a man who I instantly felt seen by. It was the first time in my adult life where I felt like I really belonged, because I was seen as a gay man struggling, as a Christian man struggling with what I would call homosexual tendencies at the time. Now, I say homosexual tendencies because that was a way at the time where I could sort of not make it a part of my identity, and it was more distance between me and it. But this guy understood. We had the same language. We saw each other. It was the first time I just felt so safe. So what I realized, because I know I'm just giving the cliff notes here, I cheated on my fiance with him a couple days later. And when I tell this story, I include this detail because two things can be true at the same time. Thing number one, what I did was wrong. I broke trust, and I broke a bond with someone that I did love. We're together for 5 years. I loved and cared about her very much. The cheating was also data for me that I was living a double life, and that cheating was a symptom of living that closeted life. So, it took me a long time to realize that and to come to terms with that. But that's when I realized, oh, I am gay. And by avoiding that fear of being gay was causing immense harm. I fully believe that hurt people hurt people. I also believe that healed people heal people. And I didn't want to hurt myself or other people anymore. So coming out was a necessary step for me in order to find a sense of belonging and to feel like I could live a truly authentic life.
Wow. Okay. So I'm trying to think of.
I don't even know what your question was, Brad. So whatever you asked, will be fine.
That was brilliant. I didn't realize that you would come out when you were engaged. So, that's fascinating. So tell me, when you did come out, how did your family react?
Yeah, great question. I have a mom and a dad who are still married. I grew up, like I said, mainly just knowing Catholics. I grew up mainly just knowing people who are white, mainly people who are only cisgender from what I knew, only straight identifying, only married and monogamous identifying. That was the appearance that we saw. And I had a
Right.
beautiful, my parents like each other. I'm saying all of this because it's important for me as a cisgender white Christian male to check my privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of privilege. And I say this because I want people to understand that it was hard for me. Imagine what it is like for someone on top of all that who um, who is navigating two homes, or who is a person of color and is getting way more hate than I am, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first step. It's our job, I think, and our responsibility to check our privilege and understand that this is my story and that it's a unique one. But I love my parents. What I told them after I'll tell you this, what they said, this is very indicative of their love for me. After I came out, the first thing my mom said to me was, what did we ever do or say to ever make you feel like we wouldn't love you?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Same thing. And kind of jumping forward, then I'll come back to this. I've always been a mama's boy. I've always been close to my mom. The older I get, the more I realize how like her I am and how much I want to be like her. My dad and I, through hindsight, I see how many times he attempted to connect with me. He realized I didn't like sports. He would take me to musicals. We would try different things. He just wanted to be with me.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm projecting, but I always felt there was a disconnection. And the first male relationship a boy has, in many situations, not all, is his father. So I can say this about my dad, and I can say this about all the men I grew up with. I didn't feel connected to any of them because I knew that I was different from them.
Right.
I want to say this to you, Brad, and I want to say this to your listeners as well. If you are a straight man, you have no idea the power and therefore the responsibility you have to making other people feel safe. The male form is where my trauma has been identified. Not connecting with men, being bullied by men in the locker, by boys in the locker room, not feeling like I had to be someone else for it. I didn't feel that way with women. So men, this is an opportunity because it's not hard. See us, believe us, ask us questions. It is so healing, and that heals my inner child trauma, right? To go back to your original question, that was it. In hearing both my parents say, what did we ever say? Upon reflection, I realized it's not what they said or did. It was the absence of words. And there's violence in the silence. And this is why community matters, and this is why representation matters. I mean, how many movies and TV shows and songs are about straight couples versus gay couples? A question for allies. How many times have you ever been the only straight person in the room? Gay bars don't count. That's like paying to go see animals in a zoo. It's a spectacle for you. And that's okay. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's not our lives, right? So this is why representation matters. And my parents have come a long way. And as Brene Brown says, we're not here to be right. We're here to get it right. And my parents have shown up and shown up and shown up over and over, which is all we can ask. And I'm saying about it is because I think that there's a lot of fragility for some people who want to be allies because they don't know how and they don't want to do it wrong. So let me repeat this. We're not here to be right. We're here to get it right. Are queer people personified walking Googles? No. You don't have to ask me how I like to have sex, right? You can Google that shit. But if you have a trusting relationship with a member of the queer community, you can develop those skills and that relation. You can ask certain questions that you might not be able to elsewhere. Again, I'm going off on a tangent. You can tell I love talking about this stuff. And it's also really nice to not be in the interviewer's seat. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I. So that's you great lead in here. So I obviously come from a land of privilege, right? So how best can we, for the lack of a better, join the fight or affirm instead of us straight cis white people show up and we're awkward and we don't know what to say and we always say the worst thing possible, right? Mm-hmm. So it's funny because I was wondering this today. I was thinking this: how am I being affirming? How am I being supportive? I know how I do it with my son. Like my son, you said that right. The first male relationship. My son, I think I am there for I create a safe space for him. He can entertain any thoughts he wants to entertain. He can talk to me about anything. We have this great relationship where he can. He's not boxed in to be a certain way society wants him to be. Right?
Amen. Beautiful.
I do the same thing for my daughter, who is bi, right? I mean, she came out as a lesbian at 11, 12. We talked about that story when we talked earlier. She's strong edge. She's she's more bi right now, but the reason why she's not dating more women right now is because she's waiting for them to mature, because she thinks they're too immature when they're younger. Right? So, and I've always given her that freedom and support of saying, it doesn't matter, what you identify as. I will love you, and support you, and support everything about you. And so my wife and I are very big on that. So how can I do more to help support the LGBTQ plus community?
Sure. Well, thing one, I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful that your children feel free to express themselves and, for lack of a better word, sort of play in the mud and get dirty and figure life out and figure out who they are. And you see them as they are. I mean, you've done it. You've done it. You've created that space. I like to remind myself and others that the word love, grammatically speaking, is maybe not grammatically speaking, spiritually speaking, love is not a feeling. Love is an action. It's a verb. So see us, ask us questions, believe us. It's so mind-blowing to me how many people who identify as Christian, and I say this as a Christian myself, don't believe us. Why would we lie about this? Gay teens are 5 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight teens. And I'm getting emotional, and I'm probably going to cry. And it's. I told you I'm working on my sermon, so a lot of this is coming up. I'm processing a lot. Like when you move, your apartment or your house gets messy as things get out of boxes before it gets clean and tidy. I'm in the deconstruction process of my own journey and seeing it in a new lens lately. So this is where this emotion is coming from. I don't understand. So 5 times more likely, queer people are 5 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight teens. That number goes up to 9 times more likely if those people come from Christian households.
Ooh, ouch.
Our theology is literally killing God's children. And the need to defend a God that you cannot prove exists over defending God's creation that does exist, that is the antithesis of Christ. I look at the crucified Christ 2,000 years ago are the same people that refuse to believe us today. The same people. It blows my mind. That's not really answering your question. So sit with us, have these conversations, amplify voices. There's so many things that you can do. I would say expose yourself to queer art. Watch queer cinema. As a straight man, put yourself in situations where you feel uncomfortable. Because gay people feel uncomfortable on a daily basis. Have you ever been verbally assaulted for holding the hand of a woman before? Right. I think it would be hard to find a gay, I'm speaking from personal experience, so when I say gay man, I know that's exclusive language. I'm speaking from my own experience. It would be hard to find a gay person who has not been called, excuse my language, a fag by someone driving down the street yelling at them. These are things that I don't think straight people understand. So put yourself in situations where you feel othered. Watch a movie, a rom-com about 2 gay men, and just note how it feels. If you don't feel connected to it, instead of saying, I don't feel connected, it's a piece of shit, that's okay that you feel that way. How do you think we feel when all we see is the heteronormative culture thrust into our faces? And then some people have the audacity to say that we are throwing our sexuality in their faces. It's crazy. So I think that's the first thing. Put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable. Find ways to humanize us. Listen to our stories and amplify our stories.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I am, you'll be happy to know, I am officiating my first lesbian wedding this Sunday. Coming up, one of my friends is getting married to her partner. And so I'm overjoyed that they asked me to do that. I'm humbled they asked me to do that.
So indicative of your presence and your love for others. It's not surprising.
Well, I mean, I think you are exactly. You know, I need to do more of that. What people would perceive as uncomfortable work, right? You know, I need to watch more movies um, that are not heterosexual. You know, art is a great way. I thought that was what was very good. I mean, and then promoting, I think as well. I always try to do that on my page the best I can. Like I'll have conversations with people, obviously that are not straight, whatever that means, right? I mean, what is the word straight? I don't know. I mean, it just, and that's where I get mixed up. I get mixed up on the lingo, right? Because I never want to offend anybody by what I say,
Sure.
right? And it just seems like if you want to say, hey, the straight people have had the market on the lingo for a long time, you know. Um,
That's, that is so true. I'll give you an example. There are so many words. It's hard for the LGBT community to find a word that doesn't offend someone. And I'll tell you why. It's because all of the words used to describe a person who is who's attracted to someone of the same sex, um, have been born out of a place of fear. The word gay used to be a bad word. Well, it used to mean happy. Then it meant a bad word, right? The word
yeah,
queer, very offensive to people of an older generation. Again, I've said fag before, but that word, people are trying to reclaim that as their own. So you're right. You're right. I want to share another story with you.
yeah.
I was having a conversation just with someone today. Actually, I saw them come on this live. I don't know if they're here still. I don't have their permission to use their names. So I'm not going to, but someone came on. I had a phone call with someone and I called them he. And they responded and said, oh, my pronouns are they, them. And I apologized. And I said, thank you for correcting me. And I did not make the mistake again. Now, if I had made the mistake again, would that be okay? Yes, because my attempt is to see and to love and to create this, to see you as you are. Now, I think some allies have this problem of being overly apologetic. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I promise you. No. We don't need that. Your guilt is your guilt. It's not mine, right?
Oh
So,
wow. Yeah.
and that's something that we see a lot too. I've had some people come that used to be discriminatory towards me and apologize profusely. And so often it makes me really uncomfortable. Apologize, tell me that you've learned, and then let's move on because you've created an unsafe space for me growing up. And now you think it's my job to take the discomfort that you have and hold that? No. That's not mine. That's yours. You process that with a therapist or with your own community, and then show me through your actions what you're doing to be a better ally for me. Now,
I love it. Love it. Yeah, you know, and I remember as a product of the 80s, all right, which had all of the church fear of AIDS and, you know, everything and the distortion of it, right?
yep,
Uh, and growing up, hey, you know, have a gay old time was the Flintstones. And then obviously in the 80s, you know, okay, this is a bad word, right? This is somebody that's going to hell kind of mindset, right? Going into that, then the 90s, and then it started breaking down some barrier. Ellen on TV, or you know, stuff like that, or
Will and
what am I?
Grace,
What's that?
Will and Grace.
Will and Grace was another one, right? Exactly. And people, I felt like like the church community, Len put a target on it even more so, right? Um,
Particularly in the 70s, particularly evangelicals.
yes, that's exactly right. And it became politicized, you know, at that point as well as abortion, right? I mean, they have their things they pick up and go, this is what I'm going to run with, and this is how we're going to divide lines, right? And we can get all the straight evangelicals to support us, right? So um, it was difficult at first to own my guilt, right? It was difficult to say, hey, you know what? I was raised wrong. I believed wrong, and I'm ashamed at the things I've said in the past as a teenager,
Sure.
right? You know, and that was difficult. But then I realized, hey, this is how I was raised. Um, all I can do now is what am I doing moving forward, right? Well, how am I going to correct and change and grow as a person and be the love that Jesus exemplified in the Bible.
It sounds to me like you're holding yourself accountable.
Yeah, I do.
One thing I learned this year in looking into other beliefs is that Buddhists don't believe in the power of guilt, or don't believe in giving guilt power, right? So they believe in turning what they say poison into medicine. To me, that translates into finding the lesson, right?
Yeah.
You could have stayed stuck in that guilt, or you could have done what a lot of people do, which is purge that discomfort onto other people and not listen because it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
This data that you're growing.
it is. It's very uncomfortable. And there's a lot of that going around, right? And I think there are a lot of people that put their head in the sand because they don't want to hear it, they don't want to experience it, they just want to live life as they always have, right?
And that right there gives me permission to have compassion for someone who has tried to take up my own space, someone that's tried to minimize my experience or my essence as a human. It gives me compassion for them because I recognize what a limited, sad life. I mean, the people that inspire me, that don't look like me, that don't think like me, that are not in my neighborhood or my culture. I mean, I am such a better person because of all of that. I would never give any of that up at all. So if you are living in fear and you can't even look at yourself and your own actions in the mirror, that's really sad for you. And I'm really sorry that you're living in your own hell. Jesus talks about heaven, in my opinion, not as an afterlife. When Jesus says, all may enter the kingdom of heaven through me, I believe Jesus is not saying worship me. I think Jesus is saying, come follow me and let's create that social movement that we call heaven here on earth. But what so many people do is they take that message and they use it as a tool to avoid accountability because they're avoiding hell, right? Religion is one, in my opinion, of someone who's escaping hell.
Yeah.
Spirituality is for one who's been to hell and wants to create heaven here on earth from the experiences they've learned in their own hell.
Yeah, I love it. So that leads me to the next question for you. As soon as I digest that, because that was awesome. Where are you at your relationship with Jesus now? Like with the Bible, with him separate, spirituality, where do you fall? Like, and I'm not asking you to label yourself.
Sure. Well, you asked me about 4 different questions. So
I
that's one. Jesus is not the Bible, right?
right.
And of course, this is my experience and my opinion, right? The Bible is not an instructional manual, right? And it also wasn't the word of God. The word of God is not the Bible. The word of God is Jesus, or Jesus's words. Okay. I also don't say this exclusionary. I do not believe personally like you need to believe in Jesus to get to heaven. I don't think that's the message of Christ. I don't think that's the message of Jesus personally. I consider myself a Christian philosophical thought leader with Buddhist tendencies. So what that means is that I want to be like Jesus. I want to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. I want to live a life like Jesus. I mean, everything from he asks questions. That's how he communicates with people. He asks questions, right? He
Right.
chooses love every time. Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I love how that's written. Love your neighbor how? As you already love yourself. It's an afterthought. I would venture to say that the most Christ-like thing we can do is love ourselves. Now, someone who takes the Bible inerrantly will say, no, 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 don't love yourself first. That's blasphemy. Love God. And my response to that is yes. Yes. We are saying the same thing because God is in all of us. Christ is a universal experience. It's not confined to one person. Christ is in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So the more I love my queerness, the more I love Jesus. Because again, love is an action. Love is being seen and love is seeing. I think about, and I'm giving a lot of my cards away because I'm preaching this Sunday about a lot of what I'm talking about here. So of course, fired up, this is on my mind. I remember experiencing depression for the first time around 7th grade and recognizing that I was different from the other boys. Around my 3rd therapy session, because Depression came around the same time I realized what gay was. There's no coincidence there. There's also no coincidence, I'll say this again, to the fact that gay teens are 5 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight teens. I understand that. The number of times, so third session with the therapist, he said, "Oh, you're probably gay." That night I cried myself to sleep. That was one of many nights I cried myself to sleep, Brad. I think about Jesus the night before he died. I think about Jesus saying, I'm crushed with sorrow to the point of death. My soul is crushed with sorrow to the point of death. Jesus was 33. He was a baby in the grand scheme of things. And he knew the night before he died that one of his best, closest allies was going to betray him. He knew that he would be stripped, beaten, spat upon, humiliated, tortured to death. How scary. How scary. Christians that use Jesus as a weapon that condemn me to hell, have they ever lived that experience? I'm curious. Have they thought about Jesus in that way? Because my heart has been crushed with this, with to the point of death with sorrow, right? Yeah. Dear God, I do not want to be gay. I do not want to be gay. Please take this cup from me. I do not want to do this. I do not want to be this. It's right there in the book. It's right there in the Bible. So the more I see myself, the more I feel close to Jesus.
Wow. I tell you, I'm going to ask you at the end of this. I can't wait to hear how I can tune in and hear you preaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be online. It's going to be this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you or anyone DMs me, actually, there's a link in my bio. If you click on the link in my bio, it's either a Facebook page invite or Facebook page link to my church, because it'll be broadcast live on Facebook. But you can also DM me and I can send you an invite.
Awesome. I'm writing that down now. Okay. So obviously, you have dealt with a lot of pain, and I got to apologize first to our listeners or watchers, because they have been chiming in full support of you and have not been mentioning them. It's my bad. But I didn't want to interrupt you either. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in. Appreciate it. And you got people saying here they're going to watch it, so that's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so you are obviously out in California. You are a life coach, and you're an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little about both of those. How are those working out? What do you love so much about acting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been in the business of people, and I've always enjoyed telling stories. I say that my life purpose is, that through authenticity, courage, and creativity, I tell stories and cultivate connection in order to help others love themselves. And I can do that through acting. I can do that through writing and producing and acting. Also, I feel like after starting, because life coaching came much later than acting, but I feel like my skills, in all of the classes I've taken and all of the auditions I've had, and every time I've been on set, has made me a better life coach, because I can listen actively. I can be in the present, and I can also, I think I'm pretty good in front of the camera. And I think that that's one reason why the business, I think, is going well, is because people connect. I connect with people and people connect with me, because it comes from a place of knowing, because I've been there, and authenticity. One of my acting coaches, Leslie Kahn, would always say that acting is 100% organic, 100% technical, and 100% fuck it. And I should have asked you if I could swear, but at this point,
you totally go right ahead. I'm making 7 years of not doing it, so just go on.
Hope I'm not offending your listeners. And I think that that's true with everything in life. Life is 100% organically listening, right, and connecting. It's 100% technical, and it's also letting it go and trusting the process and trusting that it's enough. So it's been really fun to see the skills that I feel I've developed over the years all kind of culminate to this moment of being a life coach. I'm a former teacher. I have a master's in educational leadership, so I have a lot of experience building curriculum. I think it all kind of adds up. And of course, my experience in my own trauma. And again, wanting to heal others in a same way that I've been hurt and burned.
All right. So we have a question that's come in about life coaching.
Yeah.
So Titanium XO asks, does life coaching help you discover answers to your own life that you weren't even seeking?
Does life coaching help to find answers in my own life that I wasn't even seeking? I assume they mean as a client versus as a life coach. Answer both. Yeah.
Oh, make sure. Let me make sure. Does life coaching help you discover answers to your own life that you weren't even seeking? I don't know. You can kind of take that both ways.
Yeah. I'll answer both. Oh my God. Yes. The amount of deconstruction I've been doing in my own life because of the conversations I have with my clients. I love my clients.
Mm-hmm.
I love them, and I am so challenged by them all the time, and I'm so inspired by them all the time. I don't like the term trigger, to be triggered. I think that we overuse this term triggered. My therapist helped me to understand that that sort of gives a visual of a gun and brings an idea of permanence to the situation. So the phrase, it takes a little longer to say, but the phrase I prefer is, my inner child trauma is being reactivated, right? So when I have a moment, sometimes I get a flare up of anger. What's happening is that anger is protecting me in my inner child trauma. I'm not saying my clients make me angry, but in talking to them, I realize that it's serving my inner child and giving my inner child something that my inner child didn't get that they needed at that point in life. So the answer to that question is undoubtedly yes. Do I think that life coaching helps others find answers to questions that they did not know they have? Also, undoubtedly yes. We have a phrase in salesmanship, something to the effect of, sell them what they want so that you can give them what they need, which is appears to be highly manipulative and inauthentic. But I think that there's a lot of truth to that. Example, I have men coming to me and they say, like, I just want to date. I don't have any problem with shame. I just want to find a guy to date. Oh, interesting. What have you tried so far? What's working? What's not working? Oh, you haven't gone on a date in 6 months, but 3 people have asked you? Why didn't you say yes? Interesting, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I take everything at face value, I would not be a very good life coach. My job as a life coach is to listen to what's not said. I don't expect you to have all the answers, right? So I think through your own experience of doing the work and learning to love yourself, you get a clarity of purpose, a sense of belonging, you get much more confidence, and then you can go out in the world and do the things that you couldn't do before because you first put your own oxygen mask on and work on yourself first.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I think that I would agree with you on that question as well. It's both. My job is to provide that safe space to where they can become anything they want to become, or they can achieve any goals they want to achieve. And it's not my input of what I think they should do, but helping guide them through that process, right? So
Yeah.
I have learned, and I, like you, I love my clients. Love every single one of them. I mean, I give them my phone number so they can contact me 24/7 if they need me. I mean, I care about them. I want to make sure they're not alone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, as much as they're learning, I feel like I'm learning as well. Like the learning never stops for us as life coaches, right? We got our own shit to deal with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the both of those, like the moment I stop learning, someone needs to punch me in the throat, wake me up, and get me learning again.
Listen, they won't need to punch you because they'd be punching a corpse.
Thank you very much. Yes.
That's the main. Respect the dead. You know, oh shoot, Brad, I just had a thought and I lost it. It'll come back to me if it's time.
Respect the dead. I don't care. I won't remember. You can punch me all you want.
Right. Rude.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
One element of my program is a private Facebook group. And every once in a while, I'll go live on the private Facebook group just for the men that are in or have gone through my program. And and I'll share something very vulnerable that I'm not ready to share with the rest of the world. Brene Brown talks about this a lot. You know, vulnerability is not word vomiting, right? Boundaries are necessary. You don't have to share what you're currently going through. You can wait until you've processed it fully if you want, or never share it. Sometimes before it's fully processed, I will share it with my clients because I want them to know through my actions that I am also learning, that I also have fear, that I also get insecure, that I don't have all the answers, and I'm struggling, and I get uncomfortable too. I'm not different than them. It's important for me to express my vulnerability because I want them to see you have the tools to become resilient of shame. You're not going to remove it from your life. That's just not the way life works.
Right. Now that's beautifully said and so true. So we have a question here um, from Pamela in training. Any advice from you two on starting out to be a life coach?
Yeah. Do you want to take this one first? Do you want me to take it?
You're on the hot seat. See, I pass this one off as the host.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you my own experience because that's all I have. It started out as a whisper, and I shared that idea with a couple people that I trusted. Like any new idea, this is similar to what I was saying about, are you still feeling vulnerable about something? Where do you want to share? Who do you want to share this with? It's sort of like planting a tree. You know, in the first moments of your tiny tree, it could get trampled on, it could get pulled up. You know, you have to protect it. So take your ideas with tenderness, grace, love, and care, and share them with people as you are ready, right? So it can start with a whisper to bounce it off of someone that is a reflection of you, aka someone you trust and love and sees you as you are. Hopefully you have that, and just kind of go from there. So that's the first step. And if it's something that you're really interested in, um, I'm going to tell you this: mindset is 80% of all work. So ask yourself questions like, why do I want this? Truly, because if you don't have a big enough why, it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Consider figuring out who you want to serve. Um, if you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being no one to anyone. So while Brad and I might have skills where we can help people outside of our specific niches, it doesn't mean that that's our calling. I think it's a little it feels counterintuitive when you first start out. You'll be like, I can help all these people. And that's okay at first, but be open to being very specific. I think one reason people like working with me is because immediately by hearing that I'm a gay life coach that helps other gay men free themselves from church shame, the right people feel seen.
Yeah.
And if they're not right for the program, we're both saving ourselves time. And that's okay. Um, and then I would just say, ask yourself what sort of schooling you might need. You might not need to get a certification. Accreditations they're okay, but they're not mandated by the state. It doesn't really mean anything. If you need all of that, fantastic. Do it. But if not, be open to other avenues of education. I took several classes online to fill in the gaps of things that I just felt like I was missing. And then I joined a program called High Impact Coaching. It was an 8-week program that helped me to take my ideas and create. At that time, it was an 8-week program. Now it's a 10-week program. I don't sell sessions, I sell that impact of that shame-free gay life. So it's a 10-week program as opposed to constantly looking and looking and looking and looking for more clients. That's just the way I've decided to go. Might not be the path for everyone. But that program helped me. And while it was a good investment, I ended up paying all of it off in full and having enough to pay off the year-long program, which I did right after that, before the year-long program started. That's a sign that it was the right thing for me. So I would say do research. Google is your best friend. Ask other life coaches and take as many consultations as you need. Don't, if I were you, I wouldn't sign up for a program because it has this accreditation that someone on the internet said you needed. I would do a program that makes you feel seen and safe and inspired.
So I'm not going to obviously repeat and trample a dead horse here. Okay. So, but I will say something that you were very true about. Okay. Actually, all of that was, but your niche is very important.
Mm.
And I think you're right about there's got to be a passion. There's got to be something that you really want to focus on. Like for me, it's deconstructing. What do you do with life while you're deconstructing, whether you're in church, trying to leave church or out of church? How do you how do you deconstruct? How do you get back to being who you truly were meant to be instead of just following a bunch of theologies or systems or and learn to trust yourself, right?
Yeah.
Learn to trust yourself again, because people coming out of religion have been told their whole life they can't trust themselves, that they're not worthwhile. And so what does that look like to even begin to take your life back in order to live it freely? And so, there's all different avenues. There's health coaches out there. There's yoga coaches. You name it, the sky's the limit on that. The one thing I think we can both agree on, for all of us, is there should be no competition between coaches, at least.
Mm,
All right. I went through counseling myself. I also would encourage anybody that's going to be a life coach to go through counseling themselves.
yes.
I think that would be big, to make sure you see your blind spots, to make sure you're healing your child, inner child.
Yeah.
Those are important things, because it's undoubtedly that when you become a life coach, that's going to come back up.
Yeah.
And so you need to be very consistent in making sure that you are healing yourself, if you're going to take on a role of helping others heal themselves.
Amen.
So I found an incredible therapist, and was my lifeline.
Yeah.
Went forever to see her, right? So, and sometimes I still talk to her. It's a matter of hey, this came up. Where did that come from?
Yeah. I also
So,
just said that. I mean, what a great model, right? Of like, hey, this just came up. I'm curious to know where that came from or what this means, as opposed to I'm bad for feeling this way. I'm bad for believing that, you know?
yeah, exactly. Well, our knee action is coming out of a systematic religion.
Mm-hmm.
You've always been taught that those feelings, those desires, whatever they are, they're bad because they're not of God,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's frustrating, right? Okay, so we're coming up on
Love.
50 here, right? Almost on 50 minutes, and I feel like I could talk to you forever, okay? And I wish I could talk to you forever. But let me ask you this: for those that are watching, all those that are gonna watch, how can they follow you, support you? How are the many different ways? What are the many different ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Instagram is great. I mean, this is my handle, Eric Feltus. If you're on TikTok, Eric.Feltus. It's a lot of mostly the same content. I prefer Instagram. It's a lot easier to communicate with people and to talk with people. Um, if you have any questions about my tent, if you are a gay man that's been burned by the church and you just want to learn more, just for full transparency, I do a quick 10-minute call, sort of like a temperature check. Why waste either of our time if after that we realize, oh, it looks like you're looking for a different program. Let me help you find someone or a resource that might help you. That's great. But from that 10-minute call, if I'm confident the program might be right for you and you're curious about learning more information, what we do is we set up a much longer call. It's usually about an hour. It's face-to-face on Zoom. I'll get deep down into where you're at, deep down into where you want to be. And at that point in time, I can answer any questions you have about the program. But again, I'm not a salesman. It's how can I serve you? How can I serve my clients? How can I serve these people? You don't owe me anything. So if the answer is no at the end, that's okay. I hope after an hour-long conversation with me, you have some sort of enlightenment and some sort of resource and clarity that you didn't have before. If we work together, Yahtzee. If we don't, we are in the same community, period. So that's probably the best way to reach out to me if you're interested in that. So DMs, I do answer all of my DMs. So if you have any specific questions, go ahead and ask. If you are interested in joining this Sunday, go ahead, DM me, let me know you want the Evite, and I will happily send it to you. And I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. So, Eric, thank you. I really can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk with me today. I've been looking forward to this. I've been so excited about getting to talk to you since our first conversation.
Me too.
I just loved our first conversation so much, but hopefully we can do this again sometime. Everybody that is not following Eric, please follow Eric. As you can tell by listening to him, there's depth. Okay, this isn't just just shallow talking here. I mean, he has incredible depth. and has thought through much, if not, I should say, all of what he says, especially when it comes to Jesus, especially when it comes to spirituality, life coaching, all of that, but also how we can better be supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, which is incredibly important, especially during these times. It's always been important, but don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to seek advice, to help out, and join. Join in and be an advocate. And remember, I think the thing you said that hit me was, hey, you don't need to carry my guilt, right? So have that in your mind. Keep that in your mind. So with that being said, you're amazing, Eric. I appreciate you. And I can't wait to talk to you again sometime, my friend.
God, you're so right. Time has flown by. This has been a joy. If I can just close by saying I love what you said about ask questions. If you do identify as Christian, or if you have left the church, but you still have that sort of looming feeling about what is God, I want you to know that God, whatever you believe in, delights in your questions. God wants you to ask questions. Faith is not certainty, my friends. Faith is sitting in the discomfort of the unknown and asking curious questions. Ask questions. Again, God delights in it. Don't believe what they say. Ask the questions. And thank you so much for your time, Brad. I appreciate you and everything you do for our community.
Thank you. All right, my friend. And you guys have a great rest of your Monday.
Appreciate you.
See ya. Bye-bye.